energy source and advantages as well as disadvantages of fossil fuels we have discussed. Now let us look into what is carbon in and out of living things. These two people can tell you. It is very easy. How carbon gets in and goes out of living things.
When we burn something, it comes out, ma'am. And when we take some, like any food or through air, and from plants, when we inhale carbon dioxide, when we exhale carbon dioxide, and plants, when they intake carbon dioxide, in that way it comes and enters into our body and in the plants.
Carbon in and out of living things. Just wait for a while. Okay, now. The heading is carbon in and out of living things. So, how carbon is getting in and it is going out of living things. If you take plants take in carbon dioxide. And where is this carbon dioxide present? First, any one of you have to respond. I said no already, otherwise it will not look interesting if I only speak. From where do the plants get their carbon source? From where do the plants receive or take in carbon dioxide? Come on. Where
from
is
soil, ma'am?
Present?
What? From soil, ma'am?
From where?
Atmosphere, ma'am. Atmosphere.
It is a gas present. We call them as atmospheric gases. From the atmosphere, plants take in carbon dioxide. And if you take human beings, they take in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. And this carbon dioxide enters atmosphere. From atmosphere, plants take in carbon dioxide and give out oxygen. In this cyclic manner, living things take in carbon dioxide and also give out. Plants take in, animals give out. And how these fossil fuels have been formed, already we have discussed. And by use death and decay of dead plants and animals, they got squished and cooled by lots of heat and pressure. And that is how fossil fuels like coal, oil and natural gas formation has been done. And how is this carbon entering the living things? Just now we have discussed. Plants taken from the atmosphere, animals give out. This is the process by which carbon is going to be fixed in plants. And when these plants get died and they are going to be squished and cooked by lots of heat and pressure for hundreds of millions of years, they will get converted into fossil fuels. And that is the reason coal, oil and natural gas has been formed. And these three materials, we are using them as fuel for the combustion, for heating, for burning, etc. We are meeting our daily demands by using this fossil fuels. Like we are getting oil, coal and natural gas also. Natural gas we are also using for cooking, etc. And for running our automobiles, we are using petroleum products. And coal, we are generating electricity by using coal. Next is carbon going out of living things. How carbon gets out of living things? Now we have seen carbon, how is it getting into plants and when they got died, and how this material is been turning into carbon rich source which can be used as a fossil fuel, and how it goes out of living things. When you breathe out, it is going to enter. And when you burn the automobiles, it is going to enter into the atmosphere. And we are going into living things. And as the plants and animals died, they are cooked by the external forces, got converted into fossil fuels, and we are going to extract these fossil fuels, use for our daily needs. We are going to burn them, combust them, etc. And in the form of electricity, we are going to use them. And we are liberating by such activities again these carbon materials into the atmosphere. Again, this carbon resources in the form of CO2 has been entering the plants. Again, it is coming out of the plants, again entering into the atmosphere. In the cyclic manner, this carbon is getting entered into living things, as well as it is also coming out of the other materials, where it is going to enter into the atmosphere, and again it is going to enter into the living things. And that is how carbon cycle goes on. Now let us discuss about ozone layer depletion. What is ozone? What is its formula? And how is it being formed? We have to discuss. Before going to learn how is it getting depleted, we should learn what is ozone, where is it present, and how is it being formed. What is ozone? Tell me the formula of ozone. Chemical formula.
O3, ma'am.
The oxygen molecule, it is O2. Oxygen atom, it is O. Two oxygen atoms are combined. Formation
O3, ma'am.
of oxygen molecule. Yes, O3. And this oxygen molecule, if it combines with one more oxygen atom, it is giving rise to O3. There are 3 atoms of oxygen. Then we call it as triatomic oxygen also, the other name for this. And where is this O3 present? When oxygen molecule is combined with one more oxygen atom, only one O, it is atom. If 2 oxygen atoms are combined, it is going to give rise to a molecule, O2. When this oxygen molecule is combined with an oxygen atom, single oxygen atom, it is going to give rise to O3, that we call it as ozone. Then where can you find this ozone, or simply the ozone layer? Stratosphere. Stratosphere. And around 90% of O3 is present in the stratosphere, and which is at a distance of 25 to 30 kilometers from the surface of the earth. And whatever the good deal of amount of O3 present in the stratosphere, we refer it as good ozone. Why it has been called as good ozone? It is going to save us from the ultraviolet radiation coming from the sun. And the remaining 10% of O3 is also present in the troposphere. And where is this troposphere present? Below 25 kilometers. 25 to 30 stratosphere, and below, like around 10 to 20 kilometers, the layer of troposphere is present, and which is very near to the surface of the planet Earth. And this 10% of ozone present in the troposphere, we refer it as bad ozone. Why is it called bad ozone? Only little amount of ozone is present in troposphere, and a great amount of ozone is present in stratosphere. It is referred as good ozone, as it is going to protect us from harmful UV radiation. And this little amount of ozone present in the troposphere is called as bad ozone. Why? Because it is going to cause harmful effects to the human beings, plants, and other animals too. If you inhale O3 present in the troposphere, it is also a greenhouse gas. It is going to cause some congestion, like in the form of chest pain and other ailments too. That is the reason why it has been considered as bad ozone. Now we have to think about the good ozone present in the stratosphere and how is it been formed. We have to. And new ozone molecules are constantly being created in chemical reactions caused by the sun. When O3 molecules are struck by the rays of the sun, they are going to split apart. And now O3 is been converted into oxygen molecule and single oxygen atom. And this oxygen molecule combines with another oxygen atom and forms O3. And this cycle is very continuous. This cycle is continuous. O3 is split into oxygen molecule and single oxygen atom by the rays of the sunlight. And these oxygen atoms are very reactive and they are going to combine with other oxygen molecules again and form ozone layer. This process is continuous in the layer of ozone. And there is one more important point regarding the formation and destruction. Just listen, then we can summarize it. Regarding the formation and destruction of ozone in the layer of stratosphere, as how it has been split apart into oxygen molecule and oxygen atom by when it is been struck by the rays of light, and this single oxygen atom combines with other oxygen molecule. Then oxygen molecule annapudalla you have to remember its formula O2. Oxygen atom only O. And this single oxygen atom is very reactive and it is going to combine with the other oxygen molecule and gives rise to O3. Thus how this is the source where ozone is formed in the layer of stratosphere. And there is one more important point regarding its formation and destruction in the layer of stratosphere. Here ozone is also continuously destroyed when it absorbs ultraviolet radiation coming from the sun. Previously I said because when it is getting struck by the rays of the light, it is going to be splitted apart. And because of the UV radiation coming from the sun, ozone is also being continuously destroyed when it is absorbing the ultraviolet radiation coming from the sun. And this also produces atomic oxygen, that is only one atom of oxygen, and that reacts with the molecular oxygen to form another ozone molecule. And this is the reason O3 is being continuously formed and destroyed by the force in the form of sunlight, rays of the sunlight, as well as UV radiation coming from the sun. And thus how the formation and destruction of ozone is being constantly maintained in the layer of stratosphere. They are destroyed, created, and finally concentration of O3 in the layer of stratosphere is being maintained. Even though they are split apart, again they are going to react and form O3 molecule. Its formation and destruction is being kept constant. Then how ozone layer is being getting depleted? Now the question arises. Ozone is forming and it is getting destructed because of the sun's radiation. Again it is forming. So finally concentration of O3 is being continuously and constantly maintained in the layer of stratosphere. Is it clear till now?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it clear? I will make a doubt Ravali. Then how is it getting depleted? Did you get that? Ozone is formed, destructed, again it is formed, finally its concentration is maintained constant in the layer of stratosphere, then it is okay, it is going to save us from the harmful UV radiation. Finally it is going to help us. By acting like a bridge, not entering the UV radiation to the earth's surface. It is okay. Then how ozone layer is getting depleted? Our topic is ozone layer depletion. And before that we have discussed its formation. How ozone layer is getting depleted? Now you have to tell me.
With the greenhouse effect, ma'am, the gases which are released in the atmosphere, the ozone layer is getting destroyed.
Which greenhouse gas is mostly responsible?
Chlorofluorocarbons.
That's the disruption. The main important greenhouse gas which is responsible only for the destruction of ozone is chlorofluorocarbons as well as other halogens which enter the atmosphere and which are going to destroy the O3. Then from where do we get this chlorofluorocarbons? How they are
Air conditioners, ma'am. Refrigerators.
From refrigerator. We use them as
Aerosols,
coolants
ma'am.
as they are aerosols. Like we use them as coolants, especially in refrigerators, like in ACs, air conditioners, as they are cheaply made, cheaply produced. We just depend upon chlorofluorocarbons as coolants. When they are used up, they are going to liberate into the atmosphere. What is atmosphere? This is a layer of gases. These chlorofluorocarbons are released into the atmosphere, and these chlorofluorocarbons travel to the stratosphere and they are going to split apart again the O3 molecule. And when oxygen is present in the form of ozone, it is going to help us. When it is being splitted, it is not going to shield us from the effects of ultraviolet radiation, and this is the reason why ozone layer has got depleted. And this chlorofluorocarbons, especially chlorine is present, and carbon is present in cis. This chlorine will break the ozone molecules, forming single oxygen molecule and single oxygen atom and oxygen molecule, O2 and O. It splits O3. And now the chlorine acts as a catalyst and get mixed up with oxygen gets mixed up with a chlorine atom, thus forming chlorine monoxide, which is a pollutant. This has been formed in the layer of atmosphere. And this process continues. It is going to split CFCs will split O3 and thus form the single oxygen atom is going to get reacted with the chlorine atom, thus forming chlorine monoxide. And this process is being repeated in the layer of stratosphere. Thus how the structure or the formation of ozone is being damaged continuously by the CFCs entering into the atmosphere. This process continues. Thus, one single chlorine atom can destroy thousands of ozone molecules before it has been neutralized, it seems. That is the reason why we have to take care for not liberating such dangerous CFCs into the environment. If their concentration increases, as I said, one chlorine atom is going to destroy many ozone molecules. So we have to take care. But its concentration in little amounts, it is important as they are going to act as a greenhouse and as they are going to absorb some amount of heat and give back to the Earth's atmosphere. But if its concentration increases in an exponential way, each and every chlorine atom present in CFC is going to destroy many ozone molecules. Now let us look into effects of ozone depletion. Now ozone layer has got depleted by the chlorine or by the halogens entered into the atmosphere. మరి ఎక్కడి నుంచి వచ్చాయి అంటే by human activities, from anthropogenic sources, especially human activities. We just use ACs, refrigerators and so many. మరి కూలెంట్స్ గా మనం క్లోరోఫ్లోరోకార్బన్స్ ని ఎందుకు యూజ్ చేస్తున్నాము అంటే దే ఆర్ చీప్లీ ప్రొడ్యూస్డ్ with least cost they can be produced. That is the sole reason we are depending upon such kind of chemicals. But they are going to affect us in an indirect way. As they got released into the environment, they are going to break the ozone molecule. Now let us discuss few effects of ozone depletion. Now our ozone layer has got depleted and we have seen there was a big hole in the ozone layer. What happens? If O3 is not present, Water is a gas. If it is not present in the good concentration, what happens? Effects మీరు అక్కడో ఇక్కడో చదివే ఉంటారు. It is going to affect
Ma'am, the UV
human
rays,
beings, plants.
the UV rays will directly come on the earth, ma'am.
What happens if UV rays?
Skin diseases.
If they come directly
Skin
to Earth?
Skin cancer, ma'am. Skin cancer.
Skin cancer, malignant melanoma. We are going to suffer from skin cancer. So this is the adverse effect which has been created among the human beings. If ozone is not present in right concentration, as they are not shielding us, as they are not protecting us from the harmful effects of UV radiation, they are directly going to reach the Earth's surface and going to cause skin cancers, and we call it as malignant melanoma. Melanoma is a skin cancer. Malignant is nothing but it is cancerous. Benign is non-cancerous. Malignancy cancerous. Skin cancers so మనం ఎఫెక్ట్ అవుతాము. If you take plants, what happens? వాటిలో డెవలప్మెంటల్ స్టేజెస్ దెబ్బతింటాయి, పాలినేషన్ దెబ్బతింటుంది, బయోజియోకెమికల్ సైకిల్స్
Also acid rain, ma'am.
బయోజియో cycles get disturbed. Carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, hydrogen cycles. If these cycles get disturbed, it is going to have a direct impact on the growth and development of the plants. If water is not available at the proper time, and it is going to affect the growth of the plants also. And there is one more important point called phytoplankton. What is meant by phytoplankton? You have studied about this in your intermediate level, I suppose. Okay, these are microalgae. They resemble same like terrestrial plants, but they are microalgae, and they too have chlorophyll, and they too need the sunlight for the production of food. And these are present in the water bodies, especially the oceans. And these float on the water, and they have their buoyancy support, and these float on the water, and their life also get disturbed by harmful UV radiation, as they need sunlight for their survival. And if UV radiation enters, it is going to create adverse impacts on the life and developmental stages of these microalgae, the so-called phytoplankton. ఫైనల్గా ఫైటోప్లాంక్టన్ యొక్క లైఫ్ని కూడా డిస్టర్బ్ చేస్తుంది. వాళ్ళలో ఉన్నటువంటి ఫిజియలాజికల్ మెకానిజంని కూడా ఈ హార్మ్ఫుల్ యూవీ రేడియేషన్ డిస్టర్బ్ చేసేస్తుంది. And it is also going to cause damage since there is no ozone layer, right amount of ozone layer present in the layer of stratosphere. UV radiation directly reaches the Earth's surface, and it is also, this UV radiation is also going to damage the developmental stages of some animals like fishes, crabs, amphibians, and other animals. Even the reproductive capacity get disturbed, and impaired larval development we can see among such animals. Now our next topic is climate change causes. If you have any doubts regarding the ozone layer formation, ozone layer depletion, you can come up. How carbon is getting in of the living things, how carbon is going out of the living things.
Last year in the lockdown, it is said that ozone layer has been healed to some extent. No, ma'am, is that true?
No, if there is a reduction in the pollution levels, then it is going to be healed. And which is destroying the ozone layer is the chlorine atom, CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons emitting from the anthropogenic sources. They are going to destroy ozone layer. If this has been controlled, then depletion of ozone layer also get controlled. And what is the main reason for its depletion is the human activities. We have to control. See, when we discuss about greenhouse effect, global warming, and because of the human activities, levels of CO2 has been increased, and such increase causes global warming. It also causes greenhouse effect and the so-called global warming. How is it causing? We know it is going to absorb more amount of. If its concentration is more, then it is going to absorb more amount of heat. The same heat will be radiated back to the planet Earth or the surface of the Earth. Thus, how we experience change in the global temperatures. In the same way, and because of the human activities, entry or the liberation of such harmful gases into the environment need to be controlled, as chlorofluorocarbons are the main reasons for the depletion or the destruction of ozone. We have to control it. If such problem has been controlled, then ozone layer depletion also gets controlled. Okay. Now we have the other topic called climate change causes human as well as natural. What is climate and what is climate change? And anyone else, as we discussed, what is climate, what is weather? Difference between weather and climate. Now we are going to discuss climate change causes. What are the factors that are responsible for the change in climate conditions? And we are going to discuss about two factors or two causes, human causes as well as natural causes. What is climate then? Before going to learn climate change causes, we should know what is climate change. And before going to know what is climate change, we should know what is climate. No one is interested to
Long
interact.
term, ma'am, long term of the weather is called climate.
Long-term weather conditions, we can consider it as climate conditions. Weather is nothing but day-to-day state of the atmosphere. Simply just remember this phrase. Day-to-day state of the atmosphere is nothing but weather pattern. And if you observe the weather patterns for a month or two, you can estimate the climate of that particular region. It is different with respect to different regions across the globe. We have discussed about climate earlier, I suppose. In years it is different. In other countries it is different. Based upon the geographical location, it is different. Weather patterns are different, and based upon the weather patterns, climate conditions are different. And the causes which are responsible for the change in climate, now we are discussing about human as well as natural. Before going to learn what are the human and natural causes which causes climate change, we should know climate change is a long-term shift in weather conditions. Just now we have discussed. There are few factors through which we can identify there is a change in the climate. Those are changes in temperature, precipitation, winds, etc. Temperature, we know Ushnograta. And what is precipitation? Nothing but rainfall, receiving rainfall. Evaporation, condensation, precipitation. We know Avapatam. Precipitation is nothing but occurrence of rainfall. There is a shift in these conditions too, like temperature, factors to temperature, rainfall, and weather. And by detecting these changes, we can estimate the climate condition of that particular region. And which is main cause of human-induced climate change?
Pollution.
Which is the main? Okay. Out of pollution, which is the major pollutant which causes the change in climate or climate change?
Air pollution.
Okay. in air, which gas is very much responsible for the change in climate?
Carbon monoxide, ma'am.
Carbon dioxide. We have discussed the concentration of greenhouse gases, and in 100%, CO2 accounts for 50%, which is very much important response, which is responsible for the cause of change in climate. It accounts for over 50%. And why this concentration of CO2 is being increased? And we know it is human induced because of the human activities, because of burning, because of using carbon rich sources extensively. Carbon dioxide has been liberated to the atmosphere, and around 50% it is solely responsible for the cause of greenhouse effect or global warming. We have discussed it earlier, and this is the main cause of human induced climate change. And this gas is a very long lived gas. What kind of gas it is? CO2. It is long lived gas. Why is it considered as a long lived gas? Now we are discussing about climate change, and which is responsible mostly is the carbon dioxide, and it is mainly responsible for the human induced climate change. Why? Because through the human activities, levels of CO2 in the atmosphere is being increased rapidly. That is the reason why it is solely responsible. It is importantly responsible for the human induced climate change. And it also a long lived gas in the atmosphere. What is the meaning of long lived gas? It is going to have its residence in the atmosphere for a long time. Simply, it is going to reside in the atmosphere for a long time, and it has been continuously emitted in vast quantities by fossil fuel consumption, industrial processes, agriculture, etc. And it is going to be emitted continuously, and it is going to stay in the atmosphere for a long time. That is the reason why we call it as long-lived gas. And there is also one more gas, but in less concentration, called as nitrous oxide N2O. It is also long-lived gas, and these two gases causes these two greenhouse gases are responsible for the human-induced climate change. And on the top of all, CO2 is majorly responsible for the human-induced climate change. We call them as climate forcers too. Why we call them as climate forcers? They are also called as long-lived gases, CO2, N2O. Now let us speak about CO2. It is also termed as a climate forcer. Along with N2O, these are called as climate forcers. Why they are referred as climate forcers? What is the meaning? Just to guess it.
Basic for the knowing the climate. Basic gas.
Basic gas?
For knowing the climate, that is the reason it's called as yeah, ma'am. You said the question.
Basic important gas to have a change in the climate.
Yes, ma'am.
Externally, it is forcing something to happen, something to change. Here, what is the change we are experiencing? Change in climate. That is the reason why, as they are forcing, they are called as climate forcers. And along with the long-lived gases, there are few short-lived gases also. What is the meaning of short-lived?
They live in the atmosphere for short time.
Like CO2, they live for, they have the residence in the atmosphere for a long time. Similarly, we have short-lived climate forcers too. Long-lived gases, they are also climate forcers, and apart from long-lived gases, we have short-lived gases too. They are going to remain in the atmosphere for a short time. Now let us look into what are long-lived and what are short-lived. There are a number of short-lived climate forces which are having climate warming effects as well as climate cooling effects. Now, the gases which are short-lived, they are going to have climate warming effects. Even we have climate cooling effects too also by the short-lived gases. We know very well about CO2, which is a long-lived gas, and how is it going to cause global warming. It is not that important to discuss right now, I suppose. Regarding the long-lived gas called carbon dioxide, we had a lot of discussion and how is it being emitted and what are the sources for its emission, how is going to be emitted, how is going to stay for a long time, and how is it going to absorb the heat we have discussed. Now put aside the long-lived gas called carbon dioxide. Now let us discuss about short-lived climate forces or gases which are responsible for climate warming effects as well as climate cooling effects. There are few gases which are short-lived in the atmosphere. They are going to have climate warming effects as well as climate cooling effects. ఈ వాతావరణాన్ని కొంచెం వార్మ్ చేసేటటువంటి గ్యాసెస్ ఉన్నాయి, వాతావరణాన్ని కూల్ చేసేటటువంటి షార్ట్ లివ్డ్ గ్యాసెస్ కూడా ఉన్నాయి. దే ఆర్ ఆల్ గ్రీన్ హౌస్ గ్యాసెస్. మరి వార్మింగ్ ఎఫెక్ట్ గ్యాసెస్ ఏంటో now let us see. We have main gas and we have troposphere ozone. Both these greenhouse gases and along with these two greenhouse gases there is a black carbon too, which is a small solid particle formed from the incomplete combustion of carbon based fuels like coal, oil and wood, for example. From these sources we are going to have a black carbon, which is a small solid particle. These three are responsible for climate warming effects. Because of their presence, because of their short-term presence in the atmosphere, climate is going to get warmed. Now let us look into climate cooling effects. And notably, these are referred as sulfate aerosols. And how these sulfate aerosols are going to be accumulated in the atmosphere, now let us discuss. As we go for fossil fuel combustion, this particular combustion emits sulfur dioxide SO2 into the atmosphere. One thing you have to keep in your mind, fossil fuel combustion not only emits CO2, it is also going to emit sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. As atmosphere is a layer of gases, all the gases gets accumulated in this particular layer. Along liberation of CO2 from fossil fuel combustion, even SO2 is going to be deposited into the atmosphere. When this particular SO2 sulfur dioxide, two oxygen atoms are there, so dioxide, sulfur dioxide, when it combines with water vapor, they are going to form tiny droplets called aerosols. These sulfate aerosols remain in the atmosphere for only a few days, and after that they are going to wash away in the form of acid rains and they are going to reach the earth's surface. When they live for short term in the form of sulfate aerosols in the atmosphere, they are going to cool the environment. They are going to cool the climate. Thus how they are going to have cooling effects of climate. And these are also greenhouse gases. Like we have seen methane, troposphere ozone. What is troposphere ozone? As a little amount of ozone present in the layer of troposphere. This troposphere ozone, methane, troposphere ozone as well as black carbon, they are going to exert climate warming effects. As they are going to trap the sun's energy, they are going to exert climate warming effects. And there is the other greenhouse gas called sulfur dioxide. It is emitted by the combustion of fossil fuels along with the carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. When this sulfur dioxide gets mixed up with water droplets, they are going to form sulfate aerosols. They are going to stay for short time, like for few days in the atmosphere, and they are going to have climate cooling effects. And after that, they are going to wash away from the atmosphere in the form of acid rains onto the Earth's atmosphere. This is the climate cooling effects. Either a warmer effect or cooler effect, and these are all exerted by the greenhouse gases. And if the temperature gets warmer, if it gets too warmer or too much, we are going to have global increase in temperatures, increase in global temperatures, and that we refer it as global warming. And by listening this, what did you get? What is the conclusion you are going to? Is it clear? Climate warming effects, climate cooling effects. Now I did not discuss human causes as well as natural causes. I have told you what is climate and who is exerting a change in climate. CO2 is majorly responsible. Along with that, there are other short-lived gases. CO2 is a long-lived gas. It is going to exert a change in climate. Along with CO2, there are other greenhouse gases which are liberated in the atmosphere by the combustion of fossil fuels. They are also going to have climate warming as well as climate cooling effects. These are short gases in the atmosphere. Here, is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, in order to not to have a change in the climate, in order to keep the climate in a constant rate, what we have to do? See, I said because of fossil fuel combustion, CO2 is been liberated. It is a long-lived gas. It is going to exert change in the climate. And because of fossil fuel combustion, even SO2 has been liberated. And it is also going to have climate cooling effect. And because of fossil fuel combustion, even the other greenhouse gases are also going to be emitted. Carbon-rich sources which are creating climate warming effects. Who is going for fossil fuel combustion? Who is combusting the fossil fuels? Do the plants do that, or the animals, or the human beings?
Human beings.
Human beings, ma'am.
Human beings. It is because of our activities as we are burning them uncontrollably. These are being liberated in greater amounts, and there are many other reasons or factors responsible for fossil fuel combustion, increased rate of fossil fuel combustion and increased levels of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. That we have to control. How can we control? Switch to alternate sources. This is all about climate change causes, and there are human causes. Let us discuss in detail the human as well as natural causes too. Okay? Till here, is it clear?
Ma'am, climate warming effect main cause is black carbon, ma'am. Other than
Methane,
black carbon, what
carbon.
is methane,
Troposphere
ma'am?
ozone. Methane, CH4. Methane, troposphere ozone. Methane is also a greenhouse gas present in the atmosphere. Troposphere ozone and black carbon. These three are going to cause climate warming effects. Sulfate or aerosols are the examples for climate cooling effects. Then how we can get sulfate aerosols into the atmosphere is simply by burning fossil fuels. That may be coal, that may be oil, that may be gas. It is liberated into the atmosphere in the form of sulfur dioxide. Like how carbon dioxide has been emitted by fossil fuel combustion, even SO2 has been emitted. And after liberating SO2 into the atmosphere, they are going to mix it up with water and convert into sulfate aerosols. They are going to cause climate cooling effects. These are termed as short-lived gases as they are going to stay in the atmosphere for few days. And these sulfate aerosols are going to washed up in the form of acid rains from the atmosphere.
Okay, ma'am.
And thus how climate change is induced by human activities. CO2, long-lived gas, it is a climate forcer. Even methane, troposphere ozone, black carbon, as well as sulfate aerosols are short-lived gases. These are also are functioning like climate forces. Now we have to discuss what are the human causes for climate change. What are the natural causes for climate change? Fossil fuel combustion has been done by human beings and it is a human cause, human induced climate change, we can say. There are other natural causes too which cause change in the climate. These two causes let us discuss tomorrow. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
I think
Okay, ma'am.
class now.
Thank you, ma'am.
all. If you have any doubt, you can ask me. Otherwise, you can leave the session.
Thank you, ma'am.
No doubts now.
థ్యాంక్ యూ
విన్నప్పుడు ఈజీగానే ఉంది మ్యామ్.
థ్యాంక్ యూ మ్యామ్